Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about a story that has not really gained much in the headline news this week because of Nancy Guthrie, but it should terrify all of us. It's about a secret biolab that was discovered in Las Vegas. And we've talked about GLP-1 drugs over the past couple of years on this show, but there's a really crazy story of a child who injected herself with her mom's GLP-1, and we'll talk about what happened to her after that happened. A new warning has come out from the Department of Homeland Security alerting authorities that there has been an increase in domestic partner poisoning that may go undetected. It may look like it's natural disease. And then we have two crazy medical stories this week. The first is a mother who discovered her child was born with two anuses. And that doesn't even sound like a word that you could say together. Anuses, ani,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the second is a baby that survived an abortion procedure. Yes, you heard me right. It is a really outrageous story. Probably the craziest case of this week. All that and more on today's episode.
All right. So first, let's get into this secret biolab that was discovered in Las Vegas. And you're right. There are news articles about this, but I don't think people
Barely.
are making it that big of a deal. And it's really scary.
Yeah. And I think that so the scariest part of it really is that it seems to be connected to another case that already happened
Yeah.
in a completely different state, in which at that particular case the person had at least 20 potential infectious agents, including HIV, tuberculosis, and the deadliest form of malaria. So I guess the question is, why on earth would a human ever have to have a biolab outside of a hospital or diagnostic center or even a research center? Like, why would anybody be doing this in the garage of their house?
The whole situation's really weird because it doesn't even seem like the person running this was living in this house. It seems like this property was being used and rented out as Airbnbs. They were renting individual rooms out. And then it seems like what happened is this cleaning person came in to clean the room, and they said the garage was typically locked. And on this specific day, she was able to get in there, and afterwards she got really sick. And other people that had stayed on the property had also reported getting sick. So they start looking into this, and then they see that this house is owned by the same LLC that was running this lab out of California that got busted for also having hazardous materials.
You know, every single time you go to an Airbnb, there's always like the locked door,
Yeah,
right?
always.
Gabe always breaks into them every single time.
Maybe don't admit that.
He's just so nosy. And I'm like, oh, you found that broom. You really got over on them.
Wow, the extra toilet paper.
Yeah. But like, seriously, like, you never know what's behind the door. So in this case, it's like the garage is locked and it's shut, and you're like, okay, whatever. They don't want people using the garage. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool, there's a bio hood and there's all these drums of this unidentified liquid in here and organisms that are being cultured. It's just like the weirdest shit ever. I don't understand why anyone would need to have a bio safety hood in their garage. Like, this dude's doing some shady shit. Everybody needs to be really scared about this. Seriously. Like, what is this guy doing?
Well, yeah, because it's like the lab that got busted got busted for selling fake COVID kits, and those people are facing federal charges with that. So then they're saying this lab also had vials containing the names of at least 20 potentially infectious agents, including HIV, tuberculosis, and the deadliest known form of malaria. So then this lab they find in this property in Las Vegas also has similar things. Like, this person is having these incredibly dangerous biological materials in a private residence. Like, what could you ever need to have them for?
And it's like the cleaning lady, the handyman, and one of the guy's wives got so sick that they had to go to the hospital with respiratory-like illness. I mean, hello? This, like, did we not just go through the whole COVID thing? Like, nobody wants to go through anything like that again. I mean, like, it just is unfortunate that the Nancy Guthrie thing happened this week, because I feel like this would have been a really big story if that wasn't the big story.
Well, you say that, but also, like, it would be because the Epstein thing's happening too, and that's also a really big story. The Nancy Guthrie thing's also a really big story. Catherine O'Hara's cause of death was a really big story. The media is choosing not to make this a big story. It could very well
Yeah,
be.
I mean that's the scariest part of this world that we're in is it's just and it's always been that way. It's not I mean, I feel like now at least more than ever we could learn this information from other places because I know a lot of people online are just kind of like why is this Nancy Guthrie case getting so much attention when there's similar type of story. I mean, I wouldn't say that there's similar stories happening, but there definitely are elderly people that go missing. There's people that get kidnapped every single
Yeah,
day
but why it's getting so much attention is because it's the
because we
mother
know
of a celebrity.
yeah,
So that's why.
exactly. So, and I personally don't feel that way because I'm invested in the story,
If
which
this was
is
a regular person, I'd be just as invested.
yeah. I mean, it's exactly like it's just a very interesting and unusual story, but but this particular case is also very interesting. We need to know about this kind of stuff happening because this was happening in a neighborhood in Las Vegas. Like people don't know that this is happening right under their nose and apparently like bugs and potentially even animals have died on this property because of the exposures of whatever the hell this person's doing.
Well, yeah, and I think for regular people like myself, we don't necessarily understand the dangers behind these materials being found outside of a controlled lab environment. And I mean, even aren't they under super crazy security at the CDC facilities that have these?
Not I mean there's some of the ones that the guy's dealing with are not they're not like the worst thing ever. Like, I mean, you don't want Ebola to be spreading around, right? But you also don't want to get TB either. None of us, I mean, some people in this country are vaccinated for it if they were from another country, but like, we're not. The majority of people that live here aren't. And you can die from it. People get it and survive it, but it could give you lifelong problems. You don't want to get it. But look, I mean, you have to think about this from the person from this is how I think about it from like a bioweapon standpoint. When you look at how COVID really affected this country, every country, the whole entire world, but why would you release a bioweapon like Ebola that's going to kill so many people? Like what's the point? You want to enable people enough to the point where they they get scared and they can't function, but you don't want to kill everybody because then you're not going to make any money off of it.
Well, then you just have to wonder what the motive was. I mean, there is absolutely no reason these were in a private residence or even the lab they were found in California. So it's just scary to think about.
I mean, yeah, like I've worked in a microbiology lab. I just can't ever see a situation where you would need to take it home
No,
unless and I can see like people researchers and things like that, but
they don't even think this guy was a
go to,
trained scientist to be working with this stuff that had it.
okay, that's even more alarming. Where did he get it?
Well, exactly. This
Like
is
just get you can't just get that. He has to know something because you can't grow those organisms and stuff without knowing how to culture them and everything and have the proper equipment. And that equipment is really, really expensive too. The
well, he
whole
didn't
thing
have
just
proper
stinks.
equipment. The cleaning lady was saying that basically they just had him in regular fridge like refrigerators you would see in a garage.
Well, I mean, we could use refrigerators in the lab too, but I'm just saying, like, they have to have some kind of incubator and things like that if they're growing any kind of bacteria. Like, you can't just put that shit in a fridge and have it survive. So you have to know what you're doing. He might not be a trained scientist here, but he had to train somewhere and he had to learn it. It's not very easy thing to do. You need to understand because certain bacteria grow in certain kinds of environments. Some need more heat, some need less heat, some need no oxygen. There's like all different things that they would need to in order to make this survive. And then especially something like malaria, which is a parasite that's not even a bacteria, it's a whole other ball game. Like you need to understand what organisms you're working with and how to to cultivate them and keep them alive.
All right, so a 7-year-old girl had gone to the hospital after injecting 60% of her mother's GLP-1s, thinking it could help cure her stomach ache.
Yeah, so I guess her mom did it in front of her and said a little kid says like, why are you taking this medicine? And she says, oh, it helps me with my stomach aches. And then so the kid got sick and was like, oh, I'm going to use my mom's medicine that helps with her stomach aches. She's 7 and injects herself with this GLP-1 and got like deathly ill, of course, because it's based on dosage, right? So a 7-year-old is less than half of the weight of a person that's taking an adult sized dosage of that. So you're just, when you take an overdose of a drug like this, you're just going to get severe symptoms that normally come with this drug, like nausea, diarrhea, which comes with dehydration, vomiting comes with dehydration, things like that. So she brought, of course, the nausea and the stomach problems. I can't even imagine, but at least the mom found out like what was happening with her kid, because could you imagine if your kid was having these crazy symptoms and they couldn't figure out what was causing something like that? So I guess the kid admitted to it, which was good. She brought her to the hospital. The kid was dehydrated and then they discharged her. And then the kid was so sick and throwing up still that the kid had to go back and was like in the hospital for a while, to the point where they thought that her kidneys were failing because she was so dehydrated. She didn't eat for 6 days.
I'm kind of confused why it seems like the mom knew immediately and contacted poison control, who then advised her to take her to the emergency room. So knowing all that information up front, why wouldn't they at least want to monitor a kid like that?
I mean, at the time they probably, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. And this is going to this is not doesn't happen commonly, but it'll happen more because more and more people are taking it. And there's no antidote, right? So it's not like you could give the kid another medication to counteract that one. It's like you just got to let it run its course. And I guess at the time, and this happens too, because people inject the GLP-1 and they don't feel sick like right away, right? It takes a minute for it to kick in.
Yeah.
So she probably called poison control. They were like, go to the hospital right now. She went to the hospital. Kid was having symptoms, but they got more severe over the course of 24 or 48 hours, which is normal. So then the kid had to go back to the hospital, but I guess they discharged the kid thinking that that was the worst of it, which was a terrible idea. Luckily, the mom was smart enough to bring the kid back. I do think it's appropriate that she called poison control. I told you that happened to us before when we were on vacation, and I put out like these 2 medicine cups filled with Zyrtec for the kids, and then one kid, guess which one, took both of them because she didn't realize that she took the other one. But I panicked because my kids already take like a higher dose because they have such bad allergies, so they take like off-label dose as it is. And I called poison control, just like, oh my God, is my kid like gonna fall asleep right now and die in her sleep because she had 2 doses of this high dose of Zyrtec. So, and in my opinion, like I feel like I probably would do the same with the GLP-1. Like I don't think that I would immediately be like, I have to bring this kid to the hospital. Like what, like I would call them and ask them, because they're like the experts of it. They know all of this stuff and they're great. They're really great. So yeah, and they'll tell you, bring the kid to the hospital right now. Because especially us, like we were on vacation and I was like, do we need to go to the hospital right now? Is that something? It seemed excessive. And they told me, make sure, you wake her up and you watch her and stuff. But they were like looking at her weight and stuff and they're like, she's fine. She might sleep a little bit longer tomorrow, but she'll be fine.
I think the mom took the right steps, and not to be Judge Judy about it, but like I don't agree with them going on television and talking about it. I understand she's trying to bring awareness, but they're like giddy and laughing. Like I'd be so mortified that this happened. I wouldn't. I don't know. That's just how I personally.
You know
see
what?
it.
It's a very innocent story. Like the kid, she's talking. I mean, I don't really see the point of doing that in front of your kid. You only have to do it like once a week, so just like do it in the privacy of whatever. But for whatever reason, her kid witnessed her doing it, and I think that it's fine that she said, "Oh, I'm doing it for my stomach problems," because like, what's she gonna be like? Mommy's fat and wants to take this, or maybe the mom takes it for diabetes or something. I don't know. Like, she talked to her in an age-appropriate way. Mommy's taking it for my tummy troubles. Like,
No, I understand this accident could happen. I guess the bigger part of this was that she didn't have it properly locked away, so the kid had easy access to it. So I guess that's just an important message for all parents.
I'm sure that any person in the world doesn't think that their kid's going to intentionally inject a needle into themselves.
Well,
like,
I certainly would never.
Children usually stay away from that. So yeah, I think it's good that she's going on, because I think we're talking right now. There's so many of you that are on this drug, and nobody would think like, hey, maybe I should hide this from my kid, because like, think about the symptoms that we're hearing about all these adults getting times 50 because the kid had such a high dose. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have a problem with her injecting it necessarily in front of the kid, because, like, I'm trying to put myself in a similar situation. Like, if I want to have another baby in a couple of years and I have to do IVF all over again, I'm going to have to do all these injections, and, like, it's time sensitive and the kid might have to be in the room. So it's just, like, it is what it is. You just got to make sure that they can have access to it.
You don't want Waylon, like, injecting progesterone into his ass cheek?
Well, that needle is so long, I don't think so. But I'm thinking of more of, like, the egg retrieval drugs are, because the GLP-1s come in a pen, right? Which is super easy. So, like, the one of the egg retrieval drugs, the Follistim, also comes in a pen. That's just super easy. Like, you pull the thing up and you just inject it really quick. So I don't think a boy is gonna really want to put, like, a stimulating drug in their body like that. But I could see how it easily happens. I just think it is important and to make sure the kids don't have access to it. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, The Gross Room is going on sale on tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow until the end of the month.
Till the end of the month. And so we don't put it on sale for really a couple times a year. That's it. But for only $20 for the whole entire year, you could have access to The Gross Room back to 2019. I can't believe we've been a thing for that long. But there are thousands and thousands of posts on there. So that'll get you through definitely the rest of this terrible, terrible winter we're going through, and we'll pull you all the way into the summer. And then we, of course, are doing new posts every single day. And on Friday afternoons, we do a special YouTube live episode with just our members, which is really awesome because, for example, this week we're talking about a really hot case, Nancy Guthrie, right? And the information is changing every day. So by the time you even hear this episode, the information will already be so different. So for that YouTube live, you can really hear the latest of everything that you didn't get to hear on Mother Knows That this week.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up. All right, so the Department of Homeland Security has issued a warning that domestic partners are, quote, increasingly likely to use chemical and biological toxins to kill or harm their partners.
Yeah, this is really great. But you know what? I agree. I feel like we've been hearing a lot of stories about this. They were saying that people are using cyanide and ricin, which is they're like bringing it back old school. They're trying to really kill people by cyanide poisoning, which is outrageous. But we did have that case a couple weeks ago, which we also wrote a high profile death dissection on, in which that guy who's a chiropractor was poisoning his wife with lead.
Yeah.
But she went to the doctor a bunch and was having all these symptoms, and it takes them a minute to figure it out. And at least they were able to figure it out in that case. And in particular, the lead poisoning, and in that high profile death dissection, I really talk all about how, when you walk into a hospital and you're sick and you're having these symptoms, how doctors could figure out that you test positive for lead poisoning, because that's not in the normal panel for testing, because that many people don't get poisoned by lead in this day and age. So there's different findings that they see along the way in order to determine how a person is being poisoned by lead. But it's the same thing with cyanide and all these other things. Like, cyanide's not on the normal panel. Ricin testing certainly isn't on the normal panel. So you have to kind of go down a track of, like, what could this be that's causing this person that was otherwise perfectly healthy to be having these symptoms? So the Department of Homeland Security is putting out an alert for nurses and doctors to be like, hey, if you have a person that comes in that has these weird symptoms and you can't attribute it to an illness like a bacterial or viral infection, then it could very well be this, and maybe start looking down that road and asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe with this information, it needs to start being part of the regular panel because there's definitely an increase. And also in that lead case, I don't think they ever would have solved it if that hero contractor did not come forward and reveal that information.
But they did know that she had lead poisoning. They just didn't know where it was coming from.
No, definitely. But like, if that guy didn't come forward, they never would have got her husband in that case because that was nearly impossible to prove. Also, I believe this week jury selection is starting for Corey Richins, who is going on trial for poisoning her husband with fentanyl and then writing a children's book about grieving a dead parent. So that is another interesting
Oh
one.
yeah, that's one we're staying on top of, and we wrote about that, right?
We wrote about that a
Yeah.
while ago, so I think the trial is start to set not this Monday, but next Monday. I will be following it. I think it's going to be airing on Court TV. I'm really interested the other information we're going to get because I feel like we have a decent amount already.
Yeah, make sure you read that post in the gross room actually, so you're like caught up with exactly what happened with that case, because we will be talking about it for sure here.
Yeah, and in this particular article, they cited this case of this Colorado dentist who was convicted of first-degree murder last year after gradually poisoning his wife with a mix of arsenic, cyanide, and tetrahydrozoline, which I believe is in eye drops. Eye drops are used, I feel, quite often in poisoning cases.
Well, they can give you diarrhea.
Yeah, but
I
can't
know
you
that.
take it too far? I always think there's this episode of Boardwalk Empire where like a college kid puts a bunch of eye drops in somebody's drink and then they are like shitting blood so bad it end up dying. But that was probably exaggerated.
There's a lot of things that you could slip. Like I was trying to tell the kids this with antifreeze. Like that was one that was used because you could slip it into Gatorade. It's very sweet. You might not be able to tell. If I just find it, I would find it so sus if like Gabe will say to me all the time, like, you know, that the thing that he says to me every single day of my life is drink more water, drink more water. But he never like comes up to me and is like, here, drink this water. Like I would just think it was weird. But I know like Ricky cooks for you, right? So I guess that would be there's just never a situation where Gabe would be handing me food that could be tainted it just would be so bizarre.
Well, this is what I had to say when we were talking about the Corey Richins case too, because I feel like it came up from a friend that the husband before he died had made a comment like, "Oh, I think she's trying to kill me or poison me," right? But it's like that wouldn't necessarily be an immediate red flag. Obviously, he did die, so then when you think about he did die in a suspicious manner and he said that, you should take it seriously. But for example, when I cook dinner every night, I make the same meal and then I give myself a smaller portion and I give Ricky a bigger portion because we eat different portions. So I'll be like, this one is yours. And then he goes, what's this, the poisoned one? And I'm like, yeah, ha. But I'm like, no, sometimes I give him a bigger portion or I'll put, like, I don't eat anything with soy in it because it makes me shit myself. So, like, sometimes if I make Asian dishes, I'll put a soy-based sauce on his and a coconut aminos one on mine, you know? But, like, I think when you put it into perspective, I think everybody makes jokes like that to some capacity, but then when you put it in connection with a person that actually dies in a suspicious case, it definitely should be looked at further.
Yeah, that case though, I feel like the friend in that case had said, he had said to his friend, I think she's trying to poison me, and he was like serious. He wasn't saying it in passing as a joke. And really, like, if you're in a tumultuous relationship with your husband or your girlfriend or your loved one, whatever, like, and they're like, oh, you don't feel good? Eat this smoothie. Make sure you drink all of it. Wouldn't you just be like,
Yeah, definitely.
or they just don't think like us? What's that woman that we interviewed about the poisoning book? What's the name of her book? Because that was really
That book is
Lisa.
so good.
What's her name?
Lisa
Lisa
Perrin,
Perrin, yeah.
The League of Lady Poisoners. That book actually made me so paranoid because it's just I feel like she.
Yeah, and it's a cool book too. Like it looks really cool on your coffee table and stuff. But
It's beautiful. She's an illustrator and she did the whole book. It is a gorgeous book, gorgeous coffee table book, but the contents are disturbing because she really points out just how easy it is to do.
Yeah.
And that made me really uneasy.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, so a young girl was at home doing a handstand when her mother noticed something unusual. She had a second anus.
Yeah, which is, I was like, was the kid doing a handstand like naked? How would you notice that your kid had another butthole, like,
Yeah,
unless they were naked?
exactly.
But whatever. I
Weird,
mean,
but
kids are naked sometimes when they're younger. So I guess the kid's doing a handstand, and she was like, wait a second, what's happening here? Because there was like a 1 centimeter hole right next to her anus. So she brought the kid to the doctor, and they figured out that this kid has a duplicate anus. It's a super rare congenital anomaly that this kid was born with, but she has one true anus that connects to her rectum and her large bowel. And then she has this other one that is a hole essentially with a blind pocket that doesn't attach to anything. So it's something that happens when we're developing as a fetus, the same as Catherine O'Hara and her situs inversus, that there's two holes that are there. And so unfortunately, even though there was no pathology with it right now, they do have to do surgery to repair it and fix it, because in the future she could get issues with it, like infections, abscesses, and even cancer could develop. There's been documented cases of that as well. So she has an anus and a little piece of rectum that had to be surgically removed.
I guess like my question is, if she's old enough to do a handstand, nobody realized this beforehand. Like I don't know because I don't have a baby yet, but are they not analyzed when they're born for all their parts, or is this something that developed or maybe didn't show up
it's
till
always
later?
been there, but it could have just not been obvious.
Yeah.
I believe that it was more posterior. They were saying it was behind. They didn't really say the location. They said it was behind her original anus. So I would say that it was most posterior, so more like up the crack.
Okay.
And I could say, like, when you're, they do look when you have the baby just to make sure, because you could be born intersex. There could be all different things that are happening down there. So they want to just make sure, the anus is patent and everything like that. But it was a perfectly normal duplicate anus and distal rectum. So I don't think that there was any pathology. It wasn't connected to anything. It's just a blind hole. And they said it was only 1 centimeter big. So it's not anywhere near the size of the normal anal opening. So possibly just wiping, because think about it being like higher up in the crack. Like, you might not lift the baby's butt up even to look at it. You'd have to but if the kid's doing a handstand and spreading her legs, then it's like, wait a second, what is that?
Yeah, for sure.
And if it's not causing problems, listen, it's a very rare anomaly. Some people don't realize they have it until they're grown-ups.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting.
All right, our last one is seriously so upsetting. So, this pregnant woman was told by her prenatal team not once but twice that her baby had no heartbeat, and she agreed to do a surgical abortion only to find out afterwards that the baby was totally fine and luckily survived the procedure.
I don't even understand this at all, but I read all the court documents, and it happened. Like, this happened, and a couple years ago. And I'm going to tell you where it happened, because this was the Women's Health Associates of Southern Nevada, and the guy's name was Dr. Paul. You should never go anywhere near this frickin' place. Seriously, I can't even believe that this happened when we tell you what. So the woman had a miscarriage. She got pregnant in the past. She got pregnant again. She goes in for her early ultrasound, to which they tell her there's no fetal heartbeat. Come back again next week and we'll see. Now, she was early, though. She was 5 weeks. Now, you just went through this. Like, when did you hear the baby's heartbeat for the first time?
Well, I didn't hear it until 14 or 15 weeks.
When did they say they saw the fluttering for the first time?
So I was 6.5 weeks pregnant when they first detected it, but it was very, very faint. And I also was going to an IVF clinic, which sometimes they have way more advanced machines than regular clinics.
Okay, so in my opinion, when they didn't see the fetal heartbeat on the first appointment when she was 5 weeks and the second appointment when she was 6 weeks, I don't know in what world they would tell her that that the fetus had no heartbeat when that is that iffy period where you don't always see it right away anyway, right?
Yes.
Furthermore, her HCG levels, so that's when you take a pregnancy test, her HCG levels were where they were supposed to be and were still rising. So there was no indication that she was actively having a miscarriage. They called this a missed abortion, which means that you are having a miscarriage, but your body hasn't even recognized it yet. So it still appears to be a pregnancy, but it's not. So right there, this was completely irresponsible from a diagnostic standpoint. Listen, I don't even want to say this out loud, but I'm going to. Like, you guys know what I'm about to say. I can't even imagine that there were actually women that had pregnancies that were viable that they were told were not viable and got procedures done because of it. Like, it makes me want to throw up.
Well, yeah, of
Just
course.
because of the way this couldn't have just happened to this one woman and not other people. So she's told, okay, you have a missed abortion, which means these are your options. You could either go home and let your body figure it out and spontaneously abort at home. You could take abortion pills to expedite the process, or you could come in for a procedure called the DNC, which is when the surgeon, the doctor will go in and surgically remove the pregnancy. Okay? Millions of women go through this all the time. She decides, because a lot of women don't want to go home and wait, because when you know that you're pregnant and the baby isn't going to survive, you want to get it out of you and try to get over the experience and move on with life.
Yeah, because it's
Because
the
it's
most terrible
upsetting.
thing you could go through.
Yes. So it's like, you don't want to go home and just wait for it to happen, because that could take weeks. You don't want to take the abortion pill at home, because a lot of people say that it's not pleasant to do at home either. You just like, I could go have this surgery done, come home, and it's over with, I'm going to do that. That's what I would choose to in that situation. So in the meantime, they think that she has some kind of infection and gives her doxycycline, I believe, a medication, which is not indicated to take during pregnancy. So they give her a pill that she shouldn't even been given as a pregnant woman that she takes. She goes home, makes the appointment, goes and gets this DNC procedure. So a DNC is when it's a dilation and curettage. So they dilate the cervix, they go in and they scrape the inside of the cervix or the inside of the uterus and scoop out all the inside of the endometrial cavity. They send that to pathology, and in pathology, we look at it to see if the doctor got it all, right? Because sometimes pieces could be left inside of the woman, right? So in pathology, we look for two things. We look for fetal parts, and we also look for the immature placental tissue that's called chorionic villi. And there also could be decidual tissue, which is the layer that grows in between the placenta and the uterus. We look for those things. So in pathology, they didn't see what we call products of conception, which would be the fetal parts, the decidual tissue, the chorionic villi tissue. They didn't see any of it. At the same time, she goes home and feels something's not right and decides to go back. She goes back, and a nurse there gives her an ultrasound and says, oh, we didn't get everything, and here's this pill called Cytotec, which is going to basically, you're going to go home and it's going to induce an abortion. It's going to induce you to expel the rest of that tissue that didn't come out. So right there, I don't know what the deal is, because it said a nurse did the ultrasound and a nurse diagnosed it as being missed. So she goes home and is like, you know what? I feel like something's wrong. I'm not going to take this pill. I'm going to go to another doctor, another hospital, and get another opinion. She goes to another hospital. The doctor comes in and is like, kneels down by her and is like, we have to have a discussion. And he says, why were you getting a DNC? And she said, because I was told that I was having a missed abortion. And he was like, you're actually 7 to 8 weeks pregnant, and your beta HCG, which is your pregnancy hormone test, is like rising and everything looks fine. You have a totally viable, normal looking 7 to 8 week pregnancy.
This is so unacceptable on all levels. this is one of those cases that's 100% lawsuit worthy. Take down this whole place. Like, how was this even allowed to happen?
Well, you know what the scariest part is? So not only was this a viable pregnancy, but she has this kid at 35 weeks via C-section, and this kid's like 3 years old now and is perfectly normal and healthy and very much alive. She probably can't even sue because it all worked out well. Nothing, like, really, like, what could she sue for? It all worked out. The kid's alive, the kid's healthy, the kid's fine.
Yeah, but this is general malpractice.
This
Like,
is-
the
this
kid
is
could
like-
have not been fine.
So this doctor, Paul, from Women's Health Associates of Southern Nevada, I want to say that again because this place should not be able to practice, and I'm sure anybody that goes there doesn't even know about this. He had to pay a fine of $7,500, which is nothing for a physician, and complete 10 hours of continued medical education, or CMEs. 10 hours. Like, I could do that tonight and be done by tonight. Like, that's ridiculous. That's reading 10 articles and, like, doing a quiz. Like, it's out of control.
I mean, this is not only a major problem in this case where this woman wanted this pregnancy, but if you were going through with this procedure because you did not want a pregnancy, it's still botched. No matter how you look at it,
I just can't. I'm like, I'm trying to think of this. I understand the first two. Okay. I understand the ultrasounds getting missed and whatever, which is terrible because I can't, like I said, I just can't imagine that this has happened to other women and they've went and aborted totally, like, healthy fetuses. Honestly, it's just terrible. But when he goes and does the DNC, like, what the hell did he take out? If you're dilating someone's cervix and going up there and scraping, like, what the hell was he doing?
well, that's where I'm getting at.
I
Like,
just
he
don't even
still-
understand how that's possible.
Thank God in this case he messed something up, but in another world in which she might not have wanted this baby, he still messed something up. So, like, it's not right no matter how you look at it. I even, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I even feel like at that appointment I went to when I was 6.5 weeks, they were saying we're looking for it, but, like, we still might not be able to pick it up. And I went back the next week, they picked it up again. Like, 5 weeks is so early. I went at 5 weeks. They certainly didn't pick it up at 5 weeks.
You know what? Come to think of it, now that I'm, like, really thinking about this, I'm pretty sure. So when you're like, and like, if you guys work in this field, just correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that when you're 5 or 6 or 5, 6, even early 7 weeks, when you're pregnant and this situation happens, that they would actually encourage you to take the abortion pill instead, because there's a more likely chance of you getting rid of the tissue and expelling, and the pregnancy smaller, so you'll have less cramps and things like that. I'm also pretty sure that they want you to wait to a certain amount of weeks when you get a DNC because it's too small,
Well, I was
because
just
of
gonna
this
say that
very
too.
situation. So that might even just be considered to be malpractice, of the fact that they were doing a DNC prior to 7 weeks, but they might. I don't know. Like, I don't want to put that out there and blanketly say that. And I think that a lot of you that work with us, that work in labor and delivery and with OBGYN situation, would know way more about this. And I want to hear from you guys and just see, like, how this is even possible, because it's so alarming.
Well, I guess the questions we have leaving this story are, like, first of all, I feel like I haven't heard of anyone in all the research I did to write my article and all of the pregnancy world I've been in right now. I don't think I've seen a case in which anyone's gotten a DNC before 10 weeks minimum, right? So this was so early. And also I'm wondering, like, in normal pregnancies, you typically don't go until you're a little further along, like 8, 10, 12 weeks to your first appointment. So was she allowed, did they want her to come in so early because of her previous miscarriage, or what happened? Because that's unusual to me that she went in so early, because most clinics won't even see you.
And, like, when she, and this is the awesome part of this, that this is all documented. So there's no, like, lying about it, right?
No, yeah.
When she went in and was told that there was no heartbeat on ultrasound, her HCG level was 97,000, which on a chart in a normal pregnancy would put you between 7 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, right? So, like, they knew They probably, it is possible that they thought that she was further along than she was, which is part of the problem when a woman goes to the doctor, because you could say you're LMP and all that stuff, but like it's not really exact. Like for you, it's exact because you had IVF and everybody knows the second you got pregnant. But like when you're a person that's having sex and you don't really know, and maybe you missed your period, like it's all a guessing game. So you have to estimate it based upon your last menstrual period. If they looked at the HCG level and saw that it was 97,000, which would put you around 7 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, then around that time you should see a heartbeat on ultrasound. And it's possible that they didn't realize that she was only 5 to 6 weeks. That's the only thing that I could think, that they were like dead set that she was that amount. And that's why they said, you're too far along. You should see a heartbeat at this point.
I just think this is so irresponsible on all levels.
But even when you get it, so when you get a DNC procedure, I would think that prior to getting the procedure, they would give you a pregnancy test and check your levels. And I guess my question is, would those levels, I feel like those levels would not still be elevated that high if she was actually having a missed abortion, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah.
Or thinking out loud. So yeah,
I don't think her levels were being monitored in addition to this.
no, they were. That was the problem, that they didn't
Okay.
follow protocol. And no, they absolutely were. They just weren't following protocol as far as like, normally when you're doing the ultrasound, you would look and say, oh no, there's not a heartbeat. Well, let's look and see if her levels are dropping. Like her levels were consistently rising. Like chemically, according to her blood work, her pregnancy was totally normal and looking fine. And they really should have been alarmed to be like, well, why is that look fine and the ultrasound doesn't look fine?
Well, she did sue them. They, of course, denied any wrongdoing, but they did end up settling. So she got something out of it. I mean, they should be in trouble. And then this article basically closed up with Dr. Paul now works primarily in an administrative role.
Well, that's nice, but he shouldn't work there at all. And I would question any practice that would even employ this person. But really, there's other things that I saw in the paperwork too about the nurse reading the ultrasound and saying, like, did they have a doctor following up? Because I'm pretty sure a nurse can't diagnose something like that. Maybe they can, I don't know. But
Well,
can a nurse do an ultrasound and diagnose, oh, you have retained products of conception, and then give her cytotech and send her home without anybody else looking at that?
Yeah, like
unless it was a nurse practitioner or something.
I can't speak to that because, like, I don't go to a normal OB office. I go to maternal fetal medicine, and there's an ultrasound tech, and then I meet with the doctor after. But the ultrasound techs are not allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
Like, the doctor has to read it after.
Yeah. It's just, it's so scary. And just think, like, I just don't, I don't even want to think about that, because you're a person that has no idea about medicine and trusting every single thing the doctor tells you. Like, this story would make me be like, you know what, every single person listening to us right now, like, maybe get another consult just to make sure. I don't know. Like,
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really serious thing that they tell you have to terminate the pregnancy, especially if you want it. So, like, definitely get a second opinion, especially if you don't feel right and you don't trust people at the office.
I mean, like, if they say that and then it's like your blood work is just not compatible with that, like, all signs point to yes, I don't know.
That's different, but
Yeah.
this is so bad.
I just don't think the average woman would even know that they're being monitored in all these different kinds of ways. Oh, you have blood work and the ultrasound and the LMP, like, like, I mean, it's good to be in tune with your body and know what's supposed to happen at your appointments. But this is just, like, out of control. And she could have sued just because she did have a surgical procedure done that was not medically warranted. Like, there could have been a way that they went around that. Because a lot of times we hear all of these terrible stories about people suing and not being able to get compensated because the outcome was good, even though there was a lot of mental anguish along the way, you know?
Oh, yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week's stories. We have our Valentine's Day merch, which is not Valentine's theme per se. You could wear it whenever you want, but would make a good
It's
gift.
romantic. It's romantic.
It is romantic and very beautiful. So you could buy that on thedoramatershop.com. And don't forget about our show at the City Vineyard next week in New York City. We are going to have the best time ever. Please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have stories for us, please submit them to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
And don't forget to sign up for the Gross Room for our sale, and you can make it in time for our YouTube Live this Friday.
See you there.
Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.